in today's session, we are going to be talking about all things innovation, and I am delighted to be joined by Jie from Worldline. Good afternoon, Jie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Georgina. Pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. So first of all, before we get started, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your role at Worldline.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Jie. I work as a product manager of innovations at Worldline. So in my role, I help Worldline and our customers understand emerging trends and their intersection with digital payments. And I help translate these market opportunities into innovative product offerings.
Fantastic. So tell me, how important is innovation in business, particularly now as the world continues to experience a lot of change and transformation at such a rapid pace?
Yeah, definitely. You're spot on. I mean, innovation matters to business in every small and big way. And it can be, for example, a product, a service, or business model and strategy that is both novel and useful if we look at the definition of innovation. And when we look around us in the past 5 to 10 years, the advancement of technology has transformed many aspects of our lives. So for example, how we get information, how we connect, how we travel, and how we transact. And this transformation is creating a lot of business opportunities and use cases, and they're happening at a much rapid pace. And you can imagine that, on the other hand, business that don't innovate or don't adapt to these changes will risk becoming irrelevant. So I think it's really critical that today we understand the changes that's impacting our business in order to create value for our customers, but also just to stay competitive.
Absolutely. So sticking with the theme of the change and transformation at a rapid pace, obviously we've just undergone quite a dramatic couple of years. We've had the pandemic. So what's driving innovation strategies post-pandemic, and how does that compare with the approaches before that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, we all experiences this ourselves, right? In the past 2 years, the pandemic has in many ways upended nearly every aspect of our life. And from a business angle, one of the most significant impacts that I think will continue to drive companies' innovation strategy post-pandemic is the acceleration of digital adoption. So research has shown that pandemic has vaulted at least 5 years forward in consumer and business digital adoption. And during the pandemic, for example, we see a fast adoptions of digital payments and solutions like click and collect and self-checkout, live video shopping and QR code, etc. If you look at e-commerce alone, e-commerce has grown 2 to 5 times faster than before the pandemic. And 90% of the companies leaders are saying that the pandemic will fundamentally change the way they do business in the next 5 years. So I think in a way, pandemic has just accelerated many of the digital trends that we see were already happening. But now, as our life come back to normal, the business are reflecting, these learnings that are from the pandemic and are reflecting this into their longer term strategies.
Right. Okay. So thinking about, from an organizational perspective, let's focus just for a second on Worldline. How do you at Worldline foster and nurture innovation internally?
Yeah, so definitely at Worldline, innovation is one of our core company's value. And our company leadership strongly supports creating a culture and also an enabling environment for innovation. We invest in innovation in different horizons. So for example, Worldline has dedicated resources for research and development, R&D, which is led through a Worldline lab. So there we are looking into radical technologies such as AI and blockchains and their applications on some of our more longer term and strategic business areas. And in our product organization, we also have an innovations team, which I'm proudly part of, working on innovations that are creating new customer experience for payments. So for example, in our team, we watch closely market trends, new technologies, and also shift in consumer behavior. What we want to do is to understand how the trends that we are seeing today were impacting our merchants' customer experience of tomorrow, and what we can offer to help them address some of these needs and desires. And we then create, for example, proof of concept to test it together in the market with our customers. We do it frequently also via partnerships with startups, because we think it's very important that we also learn from some of these innovative startups and players in the market. So we work together closely also with the startup community, and in some of our proof of concept, we create a joint product offer together. And then we will test it together in the markets with our merchants, and we learn from our pilots.
Fabulous. Okay. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, I think it's very common for people to consider innovation as purely just kind of having an idea. So
Right.
how does innovation evolve from being, merely a concept or an idea to actually providing commercial business value?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, many people tend to have the misconception that innovation, is a creative process, and it's like a kind of a black box. But, actually, in reality, there are many existing methodologies, frameworks out there that can help a team go through an innovations process. And the way I look at it is that innovation management is not that different from how we would understand, the classical product management. So essentially, we want to figure out what are the new opportunities and problems to solve. How do we solve it? And how can we do it better than others?
Yeah.
So for example, in our team, we use what we call a discover, experiment, build, and learn cycle to turn an innovative idea into product. So I'll give you some examples. In the discovery phase, we will try to identify the problems and opportunity to solve. So we do so through multiple channels, for example, a market research, analyze, and customer interviews. And once we get enough input and kind of have an idea of what are the opportunities in landscape, what is the right problem or we want to ask or investigate, we then build an MVP. We move the experiment phase and build an MVP to test it in the market together with our customers. You get a customer feedback. So key in this, the experiment phase is that, you want something to like a quick prototype, something to get a quick idea whether this is the consumer would like or not, and also on a technical standpoint, whether this is something technically feasible or not. So we want to get an idea on that. So then after we get enough feedback, the next what we do is what we call the builds. This is where we then build what we call the minimum solution with the values and features that we think are most relevant to the customers that we learn, from the previous stage. And the why I say minimum here is that we also need to consider that there can be tens of millions of ideas or features that come to mind when you think about product offering. But it's important to focus also, if you just want to launch a solution to learn from the market, we want to focus the key product, the key solutions, the key values that you want to offer to the customer, right? So focus what is important, the most critical things at the moment, but also what is realistic for us, to launch at a given time and resources, because, something might take much longer time to build while, there are things that you can realistically build in a reasonable time horizon and with a given resources. So here is also to prioritize and come up with like the first version of the solution that you can launch in the market to learn from the customer. And the last step is what we call the learn. So once we have launched the solution, we've done the pilot, it's the phase that we then continuously learn from the customer feedback. And then whenever, we get new insights, new input, feedback that we get from the customers, we can go back to any of the previous stage. So for example, in the experiment phase, if you turn out that, we feel that, okay, this might not be what the customer really wants, then we go back to the discovery. So same, in the learn phase as well, if we think that, okay, the minimum solution doesn't really have the product market fit, had that turn out to be what we were looking for, the customers are looking for, then we go back to the build again, maybe tweak some of the features, tweak how we offer the solution, and then we test it again in the market with the customer. So the most important element here, I would say, is always to keep the customer's need close in mind. And innovations won't really be useful or add value if we can't solve a customer need.
Absolutely. Well, that's really, really useful. Thank you. And so I think finally, just to kind of look ahead into the future, naturally, Worldline is a leader within the payments industry. So let's focus on payments specifically just for a moment. What can we expect from innovation and payments in the years to come? Are there any, particularly exciting trends and developments that you can share?
Yeah, sure. So there's so many exciting trends in the payments industry, and I'm sure if you talk to people, they can talk about for hours. There's tons of materials or news, that we can dig into it. But from the innovations angle, I believe that some of the cutting edge technologies that we're seeing today, such as artificial intelligence and blockchain, will continue to mature and power the new payment experience for consumers tomorrow. So for example, I think payment will become probably just totally invisible. So our ability now in the future to pay will be linked to our biometric identity. So for example, imagine that you can walk in the store, pick up a product, and then pay by simply authenticating with your biometrics, with your face, with your hands. No bank card or mobile devices will be needed when you want to make a payment. And I also think that payment will become truly instant. So in the future, we can easily send money to our friends anywhere in the world, and they can receive the money in real time on their account within the no cost. And the digital currencies and cryptocurrencies will also provide, alternative to the traditional form of money that we see and understand today. And from a technology standpoint, in the past 20 years, we also seen an evolution of web. So from PC to mobile, and now there's a lot of hypes. You probably also heard about metaverse, Web3,
Yes.
and the next generation of internet. So what this could look like. So what will payment look like, in this next generation of the platforms? These are the questions that, we are also very interested to find out. So I think in a world, I think payment technologies will continue to evolve in order to power these new consumer experiences, use cases, and a business model of tomorrow.
Fantastic. Well, that's absolutely fascinating. And I suppose essentially we're all working towards making things much more seamless, much more easy in the future. Well, that's been brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Georgina.